Thank you for viewing this YouTube archive of a Conscious Consumer Network broadcast. Please feel free to share it far and wide. Check out our weekly broadcast guide for weekly updates on scheduled broadcasts. Help keep us on the air by contributing to our network support fund. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, or get in touch via email. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.
Television is not the truth. Television is a goddamn amusement park. Television is a circus, a carnival, a traveling troupe of acrobats, storytellers, dancers, singers, jugglers, sideshow freaks, lion tamers, and football players. We're in the boredom-killing business. So turn off your television sets. Turn them off now. Turn them off right now. Turn them off and leave them off. Turn them off right in the middle of the sentence I'm speaking to you now. Turn them off.
Stop her. An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army.
Welcome to Eradicating Programmed Ignorance, brought to you by TLBTV and broadcast on Conscious Consumer Network. Whom without we wouldn't have a show. So please do me a favor, visit Conscious Consumer Network and donate. This is an organization supported by supporters such as you. But today we have another special, and it's a 2-hour special. As everybody knows, we usually have a 1-hour show. Today we're going to be doing a show with the National Liberty Alliance. The title of the show today is Justice for We the People. Today, my co-host is, as it always is every time we have a 2-hour special, because if it wasn't due to the magnanimous actions of Randy Moggins of Off Planet Radio, who also just happens to be the Liberty Beacon's IT director and radio network director, it wouldn't be possible for us to have a 2-hour special. In the second half of the show, after we will take a break after the first hour, we will switch roles and I will be Randy's co-host, which might give Randy actually a chance to say a couple of words. And for anybody out there chuckling, I'm very serious about that. I'd like to give you a little bit of a preface on the show here before we get started. Again, we're going to be talking with the principals of the National Liberty Alliance today. So a little bit of a preface on what we're going to be discussing, okay? The difference between common law and the law practice in our courts today, called statutory law, is simply as follows. Common law upholds the Constitution for the United States of America with its capstone Bill of Rights above all statutory law, whereas statutory law is held above the Constitution for the United States of America and its capstone Bill of Rights. Therefore, your rights are whatever our elected servants, yes, I did say servants, may choose it to be for you at the time. This is what the NLA, or the National Liberty Alliance, is endeavoring to change in our courts and thereby bring all our elected and appointed servants back under the authority of the Constitution, because right now you are under the chains of your servants. This, my friends, is the very definition of tyranny. So a little bit about our two guests. Our two special guests tonight are the founders and facilitators of the NLA, or the National Liberty Alliance. First, I will speak of John Darash. He is married with 3 children. I want to tell you a little bit about his education, because what you're going to find out is that it doesn't take 50 years of education. It doesn't take a massive college degree or a doctorate to be extremely well educated and extremely intelligent on any given subject. John is an 8th grade graduate with a GED. But he is self-educated extremely well, I might add, because the National Liberty Alliance is a partner of the Liberty Beacon Project, and we are very proud to call them a partner. We've done many radio shows together. I've written articles for their phenomenal organization, and I am aware of the education these two gentlemen have. So he is self-educated in contract law, common law, court procedures and processes, and many other trades. His trade is a construction manager and general contractor. He did this for 35 years. He's retired. His Liberty Movement organizations that he's been associated with over recent years is, and I'll give you the short list: 1999, We the People; 2007, Ron Paul Revolution; 2008, Tea Party; 2009, filed his first court case in the New York Supreme Court. 2012, co-founder of the National Liberty Alliance. John has filed over 30 cases in federal district courts. So for anybody to say the man doesn't know what he's talking about, you're an idiot. His compadre is Gerard. And you know what? I've known Gerard for quite a while, and I still don't know his last name, and I believe that Gerard likes it that way, so we will simply call him Gerard. Gerard grew up the son of a lifer Marine and moved around for quite a bit as his father was stationed in various bases encompassing several states, eventually coming home to New York, where they settled down in upper state New York. Gerard is married to his high school sweetheart, and they have 9 children. Obviously, you've been a busy man, Gerard. In 1990, he opened up an auto repair shop, which he still operates today. Gerard also served 4 years on his town council and also held the position as deputy supervisor. He has been serving as a first responder on the volunteer fire department since 1991 and is still an active firefighter. About 5 years ago, Gerard became active in the Tea Party Patriot movement, where he met his present partner, John Darash, and they started New York Committeemen, which later morphed into what we're going to be discussing today, the National Liberty Alliance, which has been his passion ever since. And for anybody who doesn't know, and I don't know why you wouldn't know, you have to be hiding under a mighty big rock. My co-host is... And, well, Randy Moggins is a very good personal friend of mine. Randy Moggins has helped us build the Liberty Beacon project to what it is today by offering his IT expertise and has helped us put together our radio network. A lot of what we have and what we do today is as a result of the good things Randy has done with the Liberty Beacon project. Not only is he a good friend, but he is one of the most intelligent individuals I know and has the ability to do media by shooting from the hip better than anybody I've ever talked to. And I always make him blush, and if I don't, I'd be seriously disappointed. All right, so Randy, why don't you jump in, give a little opening, and then we'll say hi to John and hi to Gerard. Unmute.
Always forget about that. You'd
Me
think,
too.
gosh, all these years of doing radio and TV.
Yes.
I think tonight's show is kind of exciting for me. I've wanted to do this for a while. We've talked about this. I've been aware of National Liberty Alliance and the great work that they've done, especially the mandamus suits that we're going to talk about later on tonight. But really what I'm excited about is the educational facilities that they offer through membership with the National Liberty Alliance. The average person in this country has been told that they need a lawyer to get equity and justice in the court system. And what I like about NLA and, well, the law movement at large is that we've gone populist and we're empowering people to take back the ability to go into courts to establish their justice and to not rely on the, the bar attorneys that have stolen the legal process.
Don't swear on the show, Randy.
Sorry about that.
You did say bar attorneys.
I did.
Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to say hi to Gerard. Hi, Gerard. You have to unmute yourselves now, guys. We're we're going to say
hello.
hi
Good to
to
be here.
John. How are you, John?
Well, how you doing, Roger? Thanks for having us, and Randy. Good to be here, and we're excited to get the message out.
What I would like you to do, John, and I know you're chomping at the bit to do this because you do this extremely well, is give us about a 5-minute overview of what the hell is the NLA for the uninitiative, what the difference between common law and statutory law is, and why it's so damn important for us to understand this and to jump on board your bandwagon and practice this. Please.
Well, yeah, common law ultimately is the law of the land under Article 6, and it really encompasses, obviously logic under principles, the principles of God. And National Liberty Alliance has been moving through the courts, filing papers, and the purpose of National Liberty Alliance is to actually save the nation through going and bringing justice back into the courts. Right now, obviously, we have injustice. It's a serious problem. All of the courts are operating under what's called chancery law, and that's statutory law. Now, statutory law in the United States is legal, depending on where the focus of the statutes are. The government is ruled under statutes. As a matter of fact, the Constitution for the United States of America, there is, I think it's 7 articles. And each one of those articles is a contract of statutory law. And it really lays out what their powers, what their authorities, how far they can go, and what they can't do. The Bill of Rights particularly works on that. And of course, the Declaration of Independence is the really paper that, of course, started us all off, but it is also part of our law. It sets the stage under common law. But what these people have done is really they've robbed the judiciary. And I have really been stunned. We've been in the courts, I think, 5 or 6 weeks now. I'm trying to think when we actually went in, maybe about 2010, maybe end of 2009, I don't remember. But from the first time in, we were quite naive, thinking we were going to get justice in the courts, we would get a jury, and the judges would do the right thing. But the opposite was true, of course, and we have discovered that there is no justice in the courts. It's all about really settling accounts for the corporations. The people are irrelevant. They're destroying families. They're taking away people's homes. They're robbing their children. And due process just isn't available. I have found out recently, I've heard from people over time that there are states that are called non-judiciary foreclosure states, where the town under tax foreclosure would go forward without judiciary process. And the same thing with the mortgage companies. And the judges would sign off on these things. And it's a very strange the way they go about doing this. It's pretty slick, and it's really a con job. But nevertheless, I've discovered that this is the fact of the matter in all 50 states. So we now have putting together a strategy to deal with those problems. We are taking on habeas corpuses. Last count I looked, we had 105 intake forms processing through for requested habeas corpuses, and that's over a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And from talking with our secretary, she's getting numerous new cases every day. So we're really starting to build up on the habeas corpuses. And a habeas corpus is one of the most powerful papers that could be filed in a court, and it moves you out of a jurisdiction that is not under law. And they have to hear it. They have to give it to you. It's an unalienable right. It's mentioned in the Constitution, in the body of the Constitution, and it's also mentioned in the Bill of Rights, the right of a grand jury and the right of a trial jury. What these people are doing in courts literally are acting as kings. Each one of these judges assume a position as king, and they rule whatever it is that they want to rule, and they always rule for the corporation, for the powers that be, so to speak, the status quo. But they will, what I have also discovered is they drag out every case so they can soak every dollar off you before they make the decision. And they already know in the beginning where it's going to go and what's going to happen. And the judges that are fighting on the lawyers that are fighting on your behalf, if you hire one of those guys, ultimately really is betraying the people. They're soaking money. It's a con job work between the other lawyer and the judge. They already know from day one what the outcome of the case is going to be. So some of these cases Well, many of these cases that I have seen literally could be decided and dealt with in one day. There's no need for 3 years or 2 years. That's what they do because they soak you dry. The Constitution requires free justice. It requires justice for all. As a matter of fact, the Constitution, the preamble to the Constitution, there are 6 purposes of government, and it's laid out right in the preamble. I'd like to just quickly read that. And it starts off with, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union. That's purpose 1, to form a perfect union. Establish justice. 2, ensure domestic tranquility. 3, provide for the common defense. 4, promote the general welfare. That's 5, and secure the blessings of liberty. 6, each one of that is the preamble. That is the purpose of government. And all of the powers and all of the authority we gave to Congress and we gave to the judiciary and we gave even to the administration is to fulfill that primary directive, which is to establish justice, particularly, and all these other 5 things that we had mentioned. So if in the process of law, bringing law together, taking care of the process where we've given them the authority to do so, in that process, the outcome has got to end up with one of those 4 points. Of course, we know it's everything but those 6 points. It's everything but those 6 principles and those 6 points. So we have a real serious problem. But what we had discovered was by taking back the judiciary, you can save the nation, and you could save it rather quickly. I'm going to make an amazing statement, and that is that once we get into the courts, and we're very close to that, we're about ready. It could be weeks, it could be months, but we're very, very close. But once we do get into the courts and start to administrate the process the way it should be by the people themselves, we the people taking control and power, we have government by the consent, and this is where we consent. We consent in the judiciary through the grand juries and the trial juries, and we consent to the political through the committeeman process. But once we get into the courts and actually start to take a power and authority and start fixing things, actually doing some constructive things, I would say within 30 to 60, maybe 90 days, depending on the education of the people at the time as we get in there, we can literally turn back the clock to 1789, and we'd be in an all brand new state, a slate, and we would have justice in the courts. Justice is, according to Black's Law Dictionary and Brovier's dictionary, justice is synonymous with virtue. And that's what we should be having in our courts, is virtue. So we, the people, are coming together with a sense of honor, a sense of justice, and a sense of mercy. And we require everyone that works with us to take a vow to God that they're going to act with those 3 senses. And in that process, we can save America just by being principled. One of the big mistakes our founding fathers made when they put this nation together, Jefferson had a paragraph for the Declaration of Independence, which was removed. I'm not going to read the paragraph at the moment. But anyway, it was a paragraph dealing with slavery. And it required, ultimately, that's, all men are free. I mean, that's what our papers say. That's what the Bill of Rights says. That's what the Declaration says. And there was arguments, of course, between the people. 2 of the states, I think it was North Carolina and Georgia, if I remember correctly. I think those were the 2 states that didn't want to give on this slave issue. So the other 11 states folded to that because they wanted to come in with 100%. They wanted to get all 13 colonies into the game and create 13 states and start the process. I think that was a test for them. They failed at that point. That's the one place they did fail, and we today are paying for that because, we have liberty. Take the Liberty Bell. They forged the Liberty Bell 3 times, and it cracked all 3 times, and we're living with a cracked Liberty Bell. I think that's the finger of God making a point to what we have done. So, we really have lost our way. We've demoralized ourselves. It is true that the elite have taken control, that they have demoralized us. They have hidden the truth from us. They've assaulted us from every level. And I see that ultimately as a judgment for the sins of our fathers because we have continued in the process. But now we're moving towards justice. And the one problem that they made was they compromised. They went with expediency over principle. One of the things at National Liberty Alliance is we are 100% principled, and no matter what the cost, no matter what the cutoff, no matter what the loss, we will stand on principle and not expediency. And I believe by that we will be blessed for our endeavors.
I wouldn't agree or disagree with you at all on that. And I'd like to say hello to Gerard here and give you a chance to chime in. Why the National Liberty Alliance? What caught you? What brought you into this? I can see what you guys are doing because I've worked closely with you guys well over a year, and we've done media before. But you might be presenting this to a whole different audience here, Gerard. Why the National Liberty Alliance? What do you see coming from all of this?
Well, because, we've basically exhausted our administrative remedies here. And, we learned basically through the school of hard knocks when we entered the court. We were naive. We were hopeful. We thought somewhere. And as time went on, we said, there's got to be one good guy we're going to run in front of that's going to make the right choice. And that didn't happen. And it got worse and worse. And when we discovered U.S. versus Williams, it had come across our desk and we were busy with other stuff. And so, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And so we had laid that down. And then it came back a few months later. I mean, I don't know, it was probably a couple, 3, or maybe even 6 months from when we were first exposed to that. But then I came across it again. And I don't remember if it was John calling me or I called John. I said, look at this thing. And we read it together. We said, wow, this is powerful. Look at this. It's the people that have control. They're the fourth branch of government. We understood that you can't expect the government to stick their thumb in their eye and poke their eyeball out. They're not going to do it. And when you go in and you say, I want a judicial review, I want this, that's basically what you're asking them to do. Our forefathers knew that. They had lived under King George. There's nothing new under the sun here. They had a Patriot Act back then, And basically what it was is when the colonists acted up, he told his generals, he said, arrest them and take them to court. And he says, I can't do it. He said, because they all have Black's laws, districtarians, and boviars. He said, they know more law than the attorneys know, and they always get off. And he says, stick them in the ship and send them here and we'll convict them. So there was your Patriot Act. The only thing is you didn't end up in Guantanamo overnight. It took you a month or two to get there. And so, of course, they had a lot more time to think and a lot more time to write. I think it was greater that things were slower and they were able to really ponder this stuff. And they did a pretty damn good job of what they gave us. Now, it's not perfect, and they said it was an experiment. So guess what? We're finishing the experiment. We know where it went bad. It's actually easy for us because we've built on their shoulders, I mean, they gave us all the right words.
Well, they gave us a good foundation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And look at how you build a house. If you don't have a good foundation, it's not going to stand.
Exactly.
So they absolutely gave us a good foundation, and it's up to us now to put the roof on that and all the nice little finishings,
Well, hold on a second. I need your opinion on this. Would you agree with and I don't want to use the word conservative or liberals, but when you hear these short-sighted individuals say that a portion of the Constitution or a portion of the Bill of Rights is basically obsolete today, it doesn't work for society as it is. These are basic foundations, okay? They can be interpreted, okay, in any modern sense to work with any form of government we the people wish to use with it. Do you believe any part of the Bill of Rights or the Constitution is obsolete?
I bet you dollars to donuts anybody who would make that statement, if you challenge them, say, okay, where is that?
Obama.
But they wouldn't be able to show you where. Because
Obama.
This is such a great paper. I am blown away by this book. And look at how small it is. I mean, there's a few pages. It's a little booklet. And what is in here is just unbelievable.
Well, Obama says that the Second Amendment is obsolete, and what the hell? You don't need to go out and shoot turkeys. I just did a radio show whereby we discussed that the reason for the Second Amendment was for hunting. Absolutely, I totally agree. Hold on, let me finish here. It was for hunting, but it was for hunting traitors, not for hunting turkey.
Well, when you're the turkey, you definitely would call it obsolete, wouldn't you?
Yes.
An unalienable right can never become obsolete. The unalienable right of protection itself can never be obsolete.
That's what I wanted to hear.
And so, look at these people are Marxists, they're communists, look at they're traitors. They're not American, none of them American. They were brought up in a controlled community, even if they were born, grown up in the United States, or part of their life was in the United States. Really, they're a controlled community. And, Bush hated the Constitution. He referred to the Constitution as that damn piece of paper. Obama, he claims to be a constitutional lawyer, and that's a real joke.
Scholar.
It's an oxymoron. But
yes.
Heavy on the moron side. But
let me jump in here for a second, because Randy, I can always tell when Randy wants to say something because his head starts to move back and forth like this. Okay, Randy, jump in there because I know you're dying to say something.
No, actually, I don't have much to add right now. I'm just enjoying it.
I love it. I love it. Well, John is not shy.
One of the things that I note here is that you guys are being awfully didactic by sticking to that printed word there. Aren't we supposed to interpret law? Isn't this a living document? I mean, come on. This is the 21st century now, guys.
It's a dead document. The only living document is the Bible. But look at our founding fathers were brilliant, and when you really look at this and dissect it, and by the way, we are in the process of doing an in-depth study, point by point, article by article, through the Constitution. We hope to have it done before the beginning of the year, and we're going to put that course up. We have a free course right now, a civics course, which is like 120 hours. It's pretty in-depth. It covers
Where can people find that?
At nationallibertyalliance.org. Just
there you go.
And click on education, and go. No, actually, click on civics courses. Go right into the civics course. It's absolutely free. We decided when we started this thing we weren't going to charge for anything. We were going to give away things. We wrote a lot of papers. We wrote a book on access into the courts. We did the civics course to put that together. And we decided, look at freely have we been given, freely we have to give, and we have to really rest in the hope that people will enjoy and understand and use what we have to offer them and join forces with us, and therefore they would support us. And if we have anything worthy, then we will be supported, and that's exactly what it's
I have to ask Gerard a question here. Gerard, do you believe that had John been brought up in a Common Core school class environment, he would have half the information and half the intellect he's got today?
You're asking about John now. If John was brought up in a Common Core environment,
he wasn't. There was no Common Core back then.
But if he was, he'd be in the corner all the time.
That was my point. Oh, yeah.
And look at in history, who usually ends up rising to the top? It's always the misfits, and I can attest John's a misfit as well as I am, as far as what they consider normal.
As are Randy and I can honestly tell you we are definitely misfits. We're in good company here, which is why both Randy and I were dying to do this show. We've done radio shows before, but we haven't had a chance to look at your face. When we can not only see what you're saying as you respond to a question we ask, but we can see what makes you smile and we can see what makes you angry, then that adds that third dimension to the conversation. And I'm enjoying the hell out of this. And I know Randy is, because he says he doesn't want to say anything, but his head's moving back and forth, which tells me that he's all excited. Yes. So Randy, please jump in here. Say something. Ask something. I've told everybody how brilliant you are. You guys, don't prove me wrong here. Come on.
Well, no, actually, like I said, I'm kind of enjoying the conversation right now and flowing along with the audience in terms of an introduction tonight. I think one of the most important things that we're going to underscore tonight again is getting people into the tent. I think this is an intimidating subject for the average person. I have not been shy about being proactive in my own legal aspects, things that I've had to deal with, everything from IRS to speeding tickets. And when you do that, people find out who you are. They begin to ask you questions. And one of the things I've told people for a long time, when they've said, well, last night I was driving along and this cop pulled me over and he wrote me a ticket, and they're bitching and complaining about the ticket. And I'm like, we'll go to court. We can't go to court. I don't know law. What would I say? I said, well, you can start by showing up. But I said, it'd be a good idea if you understood some basic definitions. For instance, you were accused of driving. You were operating a motor vehicle on a highway. Yes. Were you or weren't you? Because most people have been trained to believe that all the terminology that's been thrown at us applies to us, when in fact we know that we have basically constructs of private law using color of law and various titles to pull us into a situation where we are, quote, prosecuted. So I think what National Liberty Alliance is doing with the education programs is getting people to the place where they can begin to educate themselves and feel a certain confidence. Do you see a confidence among the membership of NLA in terms of being more proactive?
John.
Well, look, I think National Liberty Alliance is probably the most proactive liberty group out there. We have a huge membership, and it happened quite quickly. I was just looking back to see when we actually started. We started 30 months ago, and we actually were drafted into this system because we didn't ask for it. We were doing the committee,
Right.
And then we fell into the when we found United States versus Williams. We started looking into that, and we were working in New York. And we told other people in other states. We found that there were people coming into our meetings that weren't from New York. And after a while, there was more people coming into our meetings from other states than from New York. But the thing was, they were interested. So we told them, look, you can clone our website, take all our education, do whatever you got to do. And now, at that point, we didn't have civics courses, and we were, we had a lot of work to do on the website. And eventually, we did do a lot of work, and we're actually getting ready to reconstruct again because we've grown so much. Actually, we were actually drafted into the system. Then I came to realize that there wasn't that many people that really were educated and understood the process and procedures of the court. They didn't understand the common law, and I was still learning myself at the time. But they didn't understand the difference between statutory and common law, and they were mixing it up too much, and they were mixing it up in the wrong way. Now, statutes do belong in the courtroom. The statutes are to control the bureaucracy, to control the bureaucrat. It is to control ultimately their actions. It's to control corporations, commercial business, but never is it to control the people. We, the people, ordained and established this Constitution for them. They're under the Constitution. We're above the Constitution. So the judge doesn't get the chance. He doesn't get the opportunity to rule on us. That's a violation of all that is holy in common law. Now, the Supreme Court has ruled numerous times that the only thing necessary to make a prima facie case is an affidavit. You can walk in, just take a piece of paper, write your story down, swear to it to a notary, walk into a court and say, I swear, and tell your story, and they have to hear your case. It's over. You don't have to do anything else because that's the big lie. Law ultimately is irrelevant when it comes to injury. The common law says for every injury there must be a remedy.
Yes.
So now when you walk into a court, all you have to do is have the injury and say, I've been injured, and lay it out. Now, once you go through this process, law is all these maneuvers they make, and we've got to throw this out of court. We can't hear this witness. All that is a lie from hell. I heard on the radio this evening. I was listening to the little radio, and they were talking about a hung jury, and so therefore it was a mistrial. I want to go out and strangle somebody when I hear that.
Wait a minute, a hung jury strangle. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, there you go. The fact of the matter is when you get a jury in a jury trial and you get what they call a hung jury, it could be one person saying, no, I'm not going to vote guilty on this guy. Well, you know what? That's it. They walk free. They don't get a second trial. We have the double jeopardy law right there in the Constitution. It's laid out. It's an unalienable right. You can't be tried twice.
For the same crime.
Right, exactly.
Well, I have a question for you. Hold on. Because I need you to speak to something that falls right into what you're saying. But this is the big granddaddy of what you're saying. This is the big kahuna question, okay?
Yeah.
This is what a lot of this boils down to. And that is, do most of these courts, especially these federal courts, have any jurisdiction over us at all? Because, and let me finish here, okay? Because a lot of these courts owe allegiance to a foreign power, which is Washington, D.C., and they only exercise any authority in Washington, D.C. and territories of the United States. Zero authority in any of the 50 sovereign states. Okay, so do these courts in fact even have any authority over you at all?
Well, you must be talking about our federal city that was seized by these evil people.
Yeah, the corporation, the 10 square mile corporation.
Look at the courts that they run are running under what's called chancery courts. These guys are chancellors, and a chancellor really is an appointed individual that is empowered or vested by the king.
But
and he's supposed to bring forth.
Question, John.
I'm going to answer that question. He's supposed to bring forth the will of the king, and when there is no will of the king in a question in a particular situation within a courtroom, he gets to make it up on right off the fly, right there in the courtroom. It's exactly what these people are doing. No, these courts, even though they're Article 3 courts, they're created Article 3 courts, those buildings are our buildings. We pay for it. We pay for the computers. We pay for the electricity. We pay for the manning of those buildings. We pay for the paperwork. We pay for their fax machine. We pay for it all. That's ours. And when we go in, that's where we're to expect justice. Justice, again, was one of the first items in here in the preamble, to form a more perfect union and establish justice. Okay? And so they have courts of injustice. Now, when they open their court, we shut them right down because we walk in and open up a higher court. That higher court is called the Court of Record, which is a constitutional court or a common law court. Remember, the Constitution is the contract between we, the people, and our government. And we, of course, created 3 branches, and we controlled those 3 branches. We gave 18 powers to the judiciary, through to the legislator. Believe this or not, we only gave 4 powers to the president. I don't know if you knew that.
To the president, yes.
4, that's all 4.
They have he has the least enumerated powers of any branch of the government.
He's just the manager and a traffic cop in the whole system. Now, the judiciary is controlled by jurisprudence. In our case, we do have American jurisprudence, and ultimately gets back to common law and operating under principles, the principles of the creator of the universe. And that brings forth our unalienable rights. Now, so when you walk into a court, look at the court is fine, the building is fine, the procedures, the processes, everything going on in the building is fine, but they're all corporately cloaked. Every system of government, every agency has been corporately cloaked. They put a corporate cloak.
Do they have authority over you?
When they're operating under their charter, they don't. And when they always operate under their charter. So they don't have authority, but you can go and change the jurisdiction and take control and take authority. And if they fail to do it, then you can go after them for violating the unalienable right of due process and a conspiracy. And then you got the USC 42 and the 18. I'm sure you're familiar with those, which is good statutes for the purpose for we, the people, to use against these out-of-control tyrants.
All right.
They have no authority, but we turn it around and we take authority from them.
Gerard,
uphill battle.
Add something to that, please. I am so sick and tired of people not understanding the fact that in most cases when you walk into a courtroom, the first thing you can do is challenge their jurisdiction over you. Nobody even has the nads to even consider that.
Well, you don't challenge it anyway.
It can be successful.
Oh, yes.
It can be. If you say, please show me your jurisdiction over me in this matter. And inevitably, they cannot do it.
Correct. Well, they give you a gobbledygook answer, right? Because I'm in this court and I'm wearing this robe and all that stupid stuff. and they really reveal how much they don't know. And really, it's very hard to walk in, especially the lower court, which are called nisi prius, which means that they have authority unless you object, and they don't let you object. They fight you all the way, and it was always a battle of educating the judge, And so the lower courts are very much more uneducated. They live and die by their stupid statutes. And they love all this mandatory sentencing and all that stuff because ultimately, they know it. I think after they've been in court long enough, they understand. But in the beginning, they don't know it. But they're all making money on it. And we've discovered that in these courts, every time the judge bangs his gavel and puts somebody in jail, he gets a bonus in his retirement account. Imagine that.
And in the federal courts, they actually get a big nut, $40,000, $50,000.
Well, imagine how much that person's 20-year sentence means to a for-profit prison, and the product that guy's going to put out in a for-profit prison over the next 20 years.
Well, that's what's going on. They're privatizing this stuff.
Going into a court, and we've learned not to challenge jurisdiction in that court. Basically we ask them what jurisdiction we're in, and then we let them know that we don't belong here. And if we've opened the court, then we let them know that we've opened the court in the jurisdiction of common law. And you got to shut them down is what you got to do, because that's what they do. And once they realize that you're a danger to them because you're going to do, the just thing, and you're going to bring the process through the process, and you're going to remove that judge. If that judge doesn't remove himself or bring that court back to where it belongs, then you got to sue that judge. You got to sue him in another courtroom. You see, the case that you originally started the case in, you got to stay with that, or the case that they have against you, you have to start and stay in there and squash it. But meanwhile, you got to start removing these people from the court, sending them to another court, which you open under common law, and you get them for conspiracy to violate your unalienable right of due process, taking you into a foreign court, because that's exactly what it is. It's a foreign court.
So when you challenge him, is he supposed to recuse himself?
Well, he's supposed to, but they're so arrogant, and they think they're protected, that they think that they're untouchable, they think they're above the law. They may say those things to us, but it's really talking about themselves. But it doesn't take long after a while. Look, we had a case in Utah, for instance, okay? And when the court case started, they went after this guy because he was one of us. And they spent 3 months in a fishing expedition in order to catch him on something. And even that was a joke. Nevertheless, they arrested him. And when the judge started to hear the case, within the first 10 minutes, our name, National Liberty Alliance, came up. And within 10, 20 seconds after our name was mentioned in the court, that judge lost all composure and just said, I got to accuse myself. I can't stay in this case. I know you. And the individual that was in the case says, I don't know you. I've never been before you. How do you know me? No. I know you. I know you. And she left. So then they brought the fixer in, okay? So the fixer comes in, and he's real bold. He's going to be protected. And if he went to jail, they're going to pay him good. So, that would not happen in their system or in their eyes these days. But it will through us. But in any event, the fixer comes in. He calls him a terrorist. He calls our group a terrorist group. He says, "Oh, these people, it wouldn't even give him bail. He was too dangerous to let go out on the street." Okay. Well, anyway, they set a court date for 30 days later, where they come together and start the process of getting the jury and pulling all these things together. 30 days later, comes back, and the judge surprises everybody. He even surprised the prosecutors. They choked on this whole thing because he said he let him go. Now, he did put him on probation, which we're now going after him for probation. But the bottom line is to let him go, and he says, look, this guy is really involved with this group of people, and they're really just concerned. Now we're concerned citizens. A month before we're terrorists, but now we're concerned citizens. Yes. Right.
I call that
what's going on in the minds of these people. They fear us. And
that's making headway, isn't it?
Absolutely. When the government fears the people, okay, when people fear the government, you have tyranny. When
tyranny.
The government fears the people, you have liberty. We have people who fear us. We have judges who will recuse themselves. We have a lot of judges out there that really think that they're above the law and they're going to get away, or they don't really understand us too well. They will soon, and we filed some serious papers. We filed 13 papers, and the last paper we filed, I think, is something that's going to really rock their boat.
Well, you know what? We're probably going to end up by doing another show early next year, because there are some things coming down the road that you've hinted at to me. There's some things coming down the road with the Liberty Beacon Project. We're looking forward to doing everything we can to support you in any way we can going forward. As a matter of fact, you're one of the top organizations on our list to support in any way we can. And we'll discuss that more and more as the new year rolls around. Randy, anything you want to jump in here?
Yeah, I'd like to pick up where we kind of were in this. What is the presumption that these judges operate on that gives them jurisdiction presumed in the first place? Do they understand their jurisdiction vis-a-vis, quote, we the people? are there in play here adhesion contracts, either real or imagined, that somehow or another guide them towards believing that they have jurisdiction or that we've ceded jurisdiction?
Well,
Those are the things that make them feel better at night. That's all that is. They'll never talk. Hey, look, even Hitler changed the law so that he could hold a piece of paper up and say, "Look, it's in the law." Well, that's not the law. You know, when you do something unconstitutional, and they've trained them to believe that we've contracted with them, and that's how they feel good about it.
That's true. Yes.
But this is even the rhetoric. This is even the rhetoric. I've been around the Patriot community since the late 90s. This is the rhetoric around the Patriot community. You have a driver's license. You have a social security number. You have a birth certificate. They claim these are adhesion contracts that create a, quote, invisible bond between us and these de facto courts and government.
Yeah, but have you ever heard them actually say that? Have they ever put it in writing?
No.
Yeah, but they don't say that. They don't say because what that would do is it would bring that subject into the court, and now we can argue it, right? You see, they don't bring that up because in their heads they might think that. And look at, and what our job is to do is to make them realize, look at, I don't care what you think your jurisdiction is. If you think it's my driver's license and my social security number and some of this stuff that people today have gotten before they were, even before they're born, because if you're on social services, they give you a social security number before you're getting pooped out of the womb. So you got that number. You didn't ask for it. You didn't claim it. And even by virtue of your parents when you turn 18, look at a contract that's set forth that all sides don't know everything is fraud. So if I entered into that without knowing that I was giving up something, right?
Full disclosure.
That's right.
Well, you're talking about every citizen in this country, basically.
Exactly. So when you go in there, they're presuming you're a U.S. citizen because, and actually that's a fallacy because, you know, what are you going to do? Because I appear in front of you, I'm a U.S. citizen. Is that how you get your citizenship? So in other words, all these people coming in from all this country, they're presuming they're all U.S. citizens too, right? They're going to cover them. See, they're going to hang themselves with this.
No. You know what they're calling them today, Gerard? They've changed the name. They're no longer calling them illegal aliens. They're now calling them undocumented citizens. Now, think of what I just said. The two mutually exclusive
this is
terms.
Incredible. Yeah.
Undocumented citizen, which means all we need to do is sign a few pieces of paper and he's got full citizenship. This is what the government is calling them now. Undocumented citizens. Have you ever heard anything more freaking insane in your life? And that's
if you need voters, that's what you do.
Yes.
You go out and you document them and you let them vote for you and you promise them a bunch of crap. And
they don't promise them. They give them welfare. They give them Social Security. They give them housing. They give them free medical. And we've got tens of millions of Americans walking the streets homeless today that paid into the system their whole life that aren't getting treated as good as the illegals who walked across the border.
That's true.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. No, I'm not sorry about that.
Well, we should all start going to Mexico and sneaking back.
Oh, it's not just Mexico. But
sure,
yes, okay, I get your point. I get your point. Yeah.
So
that might work.
You know,
it's a little hard to walk to Syria.
Yeah. The major problems that the people have is they come in there and they try to get what they call standing in the court. There's a lot of poison out there on the internet teaching that you have to get standing, that you have to understand the lingo, that you have to be the man on the land. You got to get rid of your driver's license.
Yes.
Get rid of your social security number. You got to do this. You got to do that. You got to file a declaration in the county and let them know who you are. And then you can walk into the court and have standing and get somewhere. Well, that's a lie from them too. Look, at maybe 20, 30 years ago, it might have worked for an individual here or there, but they did tighten up over that, and they've closed that door. You can't do that no more. You know, you take the constitutional man, Mr. Miller. What's his first name? Carl Miller. Okay, you take Carl Miller. Okay, 20, 30 years ago, he'd walk into a court and he'd get the judges shaking in their boots, and they want this guy out. Okay, that worked back then. But they've already did the tighten up on that, and they now have a way to deal with this. And first, one of the weapons they use, or one of the tools they have in their toolbox, is to call you crazy, and we got to get you an evaluation, and so on and so forth. There's a number of things going on.
Yeah.
If you want to win against these people, you write good paper. You go in, you be quiet, you don't say much, you make a few challenges, and then you go back and you write some writs of errors, you overturn everything the judge did, and then you file a paper against that individual and all the lawyers, because it's a conspiracy. When one or two or three people work together to take you into a foreign court, into a foreign place, and to take away your due process, you've just been kidnapped under U.S. 42, U.S.C. 18. So now you go to another court, you open that court, and you pull all these guys out. Then you have the next group. What do they want to do? When we did some battles, we went into a federal court in the first case. So we went into federal court with, and it was an IRS case. And we didn't say much of anything. Every time I tried to talk, I'd get little things going, and the judge would just shut me down and move to the other guy. But he was also beating the other side up. All right. But our papers were pretty rock solid. We put some good stuff in there. And then when we left the court, he was going to make decisions in 3 weeks. Well, we did. We overturned his decision-making abilities. We gave him rid of error on that. He knew it was coming up because we had already sued everybody that was involved. We went after the sheriff because the sheriff was going to serve and take things away from people. So we wouldn't let him do that. We went after the clerk, so the papers couldn't be filed with the clerk. We went after the banks, so the banks wouldn't give the money over to the sheriff. We went after the 2 or 3 IRS agents, and then we went after, I think it was called the commissioner. I forget what they call the IRS guy, but the head honcho on the IRS. So we sued them all.
That's the IRS commissioner.
So we sued them all. We brought them into court. Okay, we took them ultimately we took them into the state Supreme Court, which we should have went into the federal. We were a little late again. But they pulled us into the federal. We told them we couldn't get remedy there. They weren't capable of giving us remedy. Judge understood that. He understood some of the terms better than I did as far as some of the things I brought up in the court or pronouncing some of the words. He knew how to pronounce them. But in any event, when the paperwork went back, and he understood at that point, we're going for his flesh now because he is violating our unalienable rights. So he knew our next step would be to sue him in another court. The federal court, same building, same room, everything else, just different judge, different hat with our paperwork. And so within 3 weeks after that, he never did make it to 3 weeks later. Instead, we got an apology letter from the IRS. We got a release of lien from the IRS. And of course, we didn't want to go back and poke him in the eye to get the $126,000 or whatever it was we were suing him for. So we let it go because we wouldn't interest in money anyway. We just wanted to get out from clutches. But the bottom line is, and then 6 or 9, I think it was 9 months later, all of a sudden the judge said, send the paper out. He threw the case out. And we were happy with that because the IRS.
Okay, hold on a second. I need to make something perfectly clear because I put emphasis on it when I bioed you into this conversation. I said, okay, John has an 8th grade education and a GED, but you got to watch out for this guy because, anybody can educate themselves. After listening
you can get.
to what you just said, okay, if you haven't convinced everybody listening to this show right now, and all of those who will listen to it once it goes to the YouTube, version, and we put that out again, that it doesn't take a college education, it doesn't take a law degree to learn how to take care of your own ass in this country, then it'll never happen. John, that was perfect. That was
Thomas Jefferson said that law should be in plain language for the plain person, and that's exactly what the Constitution is. I got to agree. There's a few places, maybe Old English words or whatever it is, that's a little difficult to work out, but you can work it out. Just get a dictionary and start researching it. But the thing is the Constitution is a very simple paper. It's cut and dry. And Jefferson spoke about those who would come making a mountain out of a mole, trying to make it say this or say that, depending on what it is that they wanted to do. But no, it's plain language.
It's called interpretation.
Exactly. Well, that's what they try to do, to interpret it. But when you look at our paperwork, we're right to the point, clear and direct, and right for the jugular. And we put the sins of these people right into the court. We don't put them in one court. We put them in all 94 federal.
Well, isn't it the job of the Supreme Court to interpret the Constitution and the Bill of Rights?
Well, they're not really to interpret. You can use that word interpret, I guess.
Well, that's what they say. I'm being the devil's advocate here. That's what they say.
Look at
their job is.
Common law is logic and obvious to all. Okay, and when you come into a courtroom and you got two people, let's say they were fighting in a contract, or even the government coming out after an individual, sides, and one does a sworn affidavit, and the other one doesn't. Well, guess who wins? That's it. Game over. Because the government will never swear to anything in a court of law. This is what I've seen in all our years in courts. They will not swear to anything. So that's why we require that when we do habeas corpuses, and it's required. They have to swear to everything. But you see, if they did swear against you, now you have a conflict. Now you have a battle. Okay. Well, then you get a jury. And it doesn't take long for a jury or anybody. Look at this, with Freudian slip. When you're lying, you're going to slip somewhere eventually. As the things go back and forth, the truth is going to reveal itself. And that's the way a court system works. But
don't you have a citizen?
About law, you don't need law in a court. Just the facts. That's all you need is the facts. The courts are just really all about getting the true facts, see if there's an injured party, and fix the problem. That's
all right. Well, basically, we need to get ready to go out for a break here. We're going to do a break between the 2 hours. Randy, anything you'd like to say going out the door here? You're muted.
No, I'll wait until the next hour because I think I want to open some cans of worms on the other side of this tonight.
Sure you will. Gerard, anything you want to say going out the door here, my friend?
Well, I'm pretty good. I'll save it for later. I got a couple points I'll bring up.
One of the things you guys can do is give information out about the website and some of the things it's offering to people who would join your organization. I think that's.
You want me to do that now?
Actually, this would probably be the perfect time, but you're going to be asked to do it again.
Okay, so we'll do it on my last words is this. It's Thomas Jefferson words. I added my little lingo into this. If people expect to be ignorant and free, forget about it.
These guys are from New York. I had to hear you say that at least one time.
Forget about it.
I mean, you look like Vinny, so forget about it.
Forget about it.
All right,
Beautiful.
So I think we're on our way out now.
The pursuit of a free, fair, just, sustainable world should be the focus of every person on our planet. The reason it is not is because people are kept distracted by the illusions and deceit propagated by the corporately controlled mainstream media. In recent years, the rise in truly informed, savvy researchers and journalists who have all taken to the air in various capacities has given rise to a new genre of media. We have seen the explosion of truly free and independent media, and thus the need to create an ethical live broadcast network that facilitated these brave and tireless souls became apparent. With a great amount of research and meticulous planning, Conscious Consumer Network was created. CCN is a first-of-its-kind broadcast network that is specifically dedicated to free and independent media with absolutely no government control, corporate sponsorship, or advertising. The live broadcast network runs full-time with an average of 25 shows and live broadcasts a week. The high-definition live stream is free to view and is accessible from any computer terminal with online access, including laptops, tablets, smartphones, and smart TVs. All shows are archived onto YouTube and are freely available to view in order to educate and inform as many as we can without imposing monetary limitations. CCN was successfully launched on the 1st of January 2015 and has gone from strength to strength as we have improved and increased the capacities and functionalities of the network, as well as an ever-rotating and improving lineup of content which is broadcast daily. CCN is blessed to be the home of some of the hardest hitting, most cutting edge, truly educational and informative materials. Catch interviews, reviews, and talk shows from the many different and beautiful perspectives from CCN's family of interviewers and broadcasters. Since the 1st of January 2015, we have produced over 800 shows. We have over 2 million YouTube minutes watched every month, and we have an average of 1 million hits a day on CCN's website. CCN is viewed in over 147 different countries and hosts broadcasters from 5 different continents. The time has now come to generate funding to keep CCN on the air for the duration of 2016. The total sum needed to continue broadcasting for 2016 is $60,000. This budget includes the replacement of computer equipment, the acquisition of secure servers, which are most needed as we keep getting hacked, plus the renewal of the broadcast license fee for 2016. This is a fraction of the annual budget used by mainstream media networks producing a similar quantity of content. This is what makes CCN so successful, unique, and accessible, is the ability to run a project of this size and reach on such minimal resources. CCN does not claim ownership over any of the material we produce and broadcast, as we firmly believe that information is the common heritage of all beings, and thus CCN belongs to you, the public, and it is up to you all to keep CCN going. CCN would like to thank those who have contributed to the network in the past with resources, content, information, time, and energy. We thank you for supporting free and independent media.